The universe was old. Stars had burned for billions of years. Civilizations had risen and fallen, and countless empires had etched their names into the fabric of time. But when they looked at Earth, they saw a species that had barely crawled out of its cradle. To them, we were young, naive, and primitive. They had no idea we were the elders. It started with the arrival of the Vasun, a highly advanced interstellar race that saw themselves as galactic peacekeepers. Their ships, sleek and silver, descended into Earth's orbit like celestial gods coming to bless a new species. They broadcasted their message in every language. Humans, we are the Vasun. We bring knowledge, technology, and enlightenment. You have much to learn. At first we listened. The world's leaders gathered, eager to welcome these visitors who promised an age of prosperity. They spoke of how their civilizations had flourished for millions of years, how they had mapped the universe, studied the cosmos, and unlocked the secrets of life itself. They believed we were still finding our place in the stars. They didn't know. They didn't see the scars written in our history, the eons of war, the rise and fall of empires, the countless lessons etched into our DNA. We had forgotten more than most species would ever learn. When the Vasun began offering guidance, we played along. They taught us their philosophies, their science, their technology, believing we were finally joining the cosmic stage. They showed us energy manipulation beyond our comprehension, warp technology that defied physics, and medicine that could cure any disease. But they didn't understand the truth. They didn't understand why we weren't in awe. They mistook our silence for ignorance. Then came the mistake, the moment everything changed. A Vasun delegation visited Earth's museums. They saw artifacts from civilizations thousands of years old, ancient ruins, primitive tools, skeletal remains of forgotten ancestors. And they laughed. "Your history is barely a whisper. Your species is still crawling," one of them had said. And that was when we showed them the ruins. Not just the pyramids, not just the Mayan temples, not just the forgotten cities buried beneath sand and jungle. We took them deeper, beneath the earth itself. We showed them structures that predated humanity, architecture built by hands that history had erased, machines buried in stone that no scientist could explain. We showed them the remnants of lost ages, hints of civilizations that had risen and fallen long before recorded time. And then we told them. We told them about the cycles, that humanity had not merely risen once, but many times, that we had reached the stars before, conquered the void, built empires among the galaxies, and then vanished. We told them about the wars that had shattered entire star systems, about the knowledge that had been lost and rediscovered over and over again. We told them that Earth was not our first home, it was our last. The Vasun went silent. They scanned our planet again, not just its surface, but its deepest layers. Their technology searched through mountains, oceans, and underground caverns, and they found them, the echoes of lost ages, the remains of civilizations so old they defied comprehension. And then they realized, we were not young, we were old, older than them. Older than most of the galactic races they knew. They had come to teach us. But they were the ones who had something to learn. And when the others came, the true predators of the stars, the ones who saw all new species as prey, humanity was not afraid. We remembered. We always remembered. And this time, we would not fall. This time, we would teach the galaxy what it meant to awaken the elders. The Vasun delegation left Earth in silence. Their once condescending demeanor had vanished, replaced by a quiet, almost fearful respect. They had come expecting to uplift a young species, but they left with the unsettling realization that they had just awakened something far older than they had imagined. And word spread. Other galactic races soon turned their eyes toward Earth. Some came with curiosity, eager to learn from this so-called ancient species. Others, however, saw an opportunity. If humanity had truly been powerful once, then surely they had fallen for a reason. If Earth was the graveyard of past civilizations, then perhaps it was also ripe for conquest. They had no idea what they were walking into. The first test came just a year after the Vasun revelation. The Zelthar Dominion, a war-hardened empire that had conquered dozens of worlds, saw Earth as weak. The galaxy's whispers of ancient humans meant nothing to them. Words were not weapons. They saw a planet without interstellar fleets, without planetary defenses, without warships patrolling its skies. To them, humanity was a relic, a species clinging to old stories, nothing more. So they invaded. They came in towering warships, each one bristling with enough firepower to reduce continents to ash. They entered Earth's orbit unchallenged, broadcasting their demands in a dozen languages. Surrender, serve, or be erased. For a moment the world held its breath, and then we responded. It wasn't with diplomacy, it wasn't with desperation, it was with laughter. They had come thinking we were weak. But the truth was, we had simply been patient. The skies above Earth lit up with fire. Hidden within the depths of our oceans, buried beneath mountains, and concealed within the void of space itself, our true weapons came to life. Technologies long thought lost roared back to existence. Massive cannons, powered by energies that should not exist in a young species, tore through Zelthar warships like paper. Orbital defenses, remnants of an era long before this one, activated with cold, mechanical precision. The Earth itself seemed to fight back, as if it had been waiting for this moment. And then the ground forces landed. Zelthar soldiers, towering insectoid creatures clad in unbreakable exoskeletons, expected resistance. They expected desperate gunfire, makeshift defenses, primitive attempts at defiance. They did not expect the cities themselves to become weapons. The moment they touched the ground, ancient machines hidden beneath the streets awoke. Walls reshaped themselves into barriers, streets cracked open to reveal hidden artillery, and entire buildings shifted into armored fortresses. They had no idea how many times we had fought this war before. They had no idea we had designed our world to fight back. The battle lasted 3 days. On the 4th, the Zelthar fleet burned in the sky, their flagship torn in half. Their invasion force was no more. The few who survived were allowed to leave, not as victors, not even as equals, but as messengers. Messengers who would spread one undeniable truth across the stars. Humanity was not to be underestimated. We were not young. We were the ones who had come before, and this time we would not fade away. The Zelthar fled, their shattered fleet limping back into deep space, their empire forever changed by the horror they had unleashed upon themselves. The message was clear. Earth was not to be touched, but in the void beyond, the stars whispered. Other empires watched, calculating, weighing their options. Humanity had survived an invasion, but surviving was not the same as thriving. The galactic elite had seen countless species rise, fight, and eventually break under the weight of sustained war. To them, this was a test of endurance. They had no idea we had done this before, and we would do it again. For the next 3 years, the universe held its breath. No empire dared to strike openly, but we were not naive. The whispers of hidden plots, of spies and sabotage reached our ears. Some species sought alliances, some sought control, and others simply wanted to know the truth. Had humanity really walked the stars before? Did we truly have knowledge beyond our years? And if we did, why had we fallen? The answers lay beneath Antarctica. For decades, human archaeologists had puzzled over an impossible structure hidden deep within the ice. Satellite scans showed it was too symmetrical, too precise to be natural. But when the Vasoon had rescanned our planet, they had confirmed what we had long suspected. It was a ship. Not just any ship. An ark, a relic of a time before this era, buried beneath frozen wastelands. A remnant of a war that had erased entire galaxies from history. When we unearthed it, the truth became undeniable. The ship's systems, ancient beyond comprehension, still held records, fragmented, corrupted by time, but not lost. They told of a war against something beyond the known universe, a war that had forced humanity to retreat, to erase itself from the galactic stage, to bury its knowledge so that the enemy could never find it. We had not fallen. We had chosen to disappear. And now, with the Orcs' systems awakening, the question was no longer whether humanity would return to the stars. It was whether the thing we had once fought would notice. The warning came on the 4th year. A deep space relay, a Vasoon station monitoring the outer reaches of the known galaxy, sent a final transmission before falling silent. No ships had been seen approaching. No signals had been detected, yet the station was simply gone. And then the message arrived, not in words, not in threats, but in a single ancient symbol burned into space itself, etched across the void like a scar. We knew it, we had seen it before, and we had spent countless ages hoping to never see it again. The elders of humanity had awakened, but so had our greatest enemy. The war we had once lost was coming back. This time, we would be ready. The galaxy didn't understand what was coming. To them, the Vasoon station had simply vanished. A mystery, an anomaly, something to be investigated in due time. But we knew better. We had seen this before. The symbol burned into the void was older than any empire in existence, older than any civilization still standing. It was a warning, a declaration, a whisper from something that should have remained forgotten. The enemy had returned. In secret, we began preparations. Earth's governments, fractured and divided for so long, now stood united under a single purpose: survival. War was coming, and we would not fight it alone. The ark beneath Antarctica was just the beginning. Hidden across our planet, buried beneath mountains, lost beneath oceans, were the remnants of our past selves, fragments of a civilization that had once spanned the stars. The ark's systems led us to them. Deep beneath the Himalayas, we unearthed another vault, one that had not been opened in over 100,000 years. Within it, we found what the ark had promised: weapons. Not just guns, not just missiles, but technologies so advanced, so devastating that even the greatest galactic empires could not comprehend them. Ships built for war, sleek and black, lined in metals that defied modern understanding. Weapons that could bend space, tear through shields, and reduce planets to dust. Humanity had once been a superpower, and we were about to be one again. But the enemy was already moving. The first real attack came on the edges of the known galaxy, in a system controlled by the Ixari Confederacy. One moment, their colony world was there. The next, it was gone, erased as if it had never existed. No distress calls, no survivors, just empty space where an entire civilization had once stood. The Vasoon panicked. For the first time in their long history, they did not have an answer. Their technology could not detect the attackers. Their fleets could not retaliate against an enemy that left no trace. But we knew. This was how it had started last time. This was why we had vanished. And this time, we would not run. The first human fleet launched 6 months later. It was a sight no other species had ever witnessed. A fleet of ships, not new, but ancient, rebuilt from the remains of a forgotten empire, powered by technology no living race could match. They were sleek, dark, almost alive in their movements, and they carried a single message to the stars. Humanity had returned. We were not the children of the galaxy. We were the last remnants of something greater. And this time, we would not be erased. The enemy finally revealed itself. A rift tore open in the fabric of space, blacker than the void itself. From within, they came, silent, formless, shifting things, existing half in reality and half outside of it. They did not speak. They did not negotiate. They consumed. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The Vasun, the Zelthar, the Ixari, all of them sent ships, desperate to fight an enemy they did not understand. Their weapons failed. Their defenses crumbled. But humanity had faced them before. And this time, we did not come unprepared. The moment the enemy emerged, our weapons roared to life. Not lasers, not missiles, but something older, something built not to kill but to erase. The enemy faltered. For the first time in its long, endless existence, it hesitated. Because we were not like the others. We remembered. And we had returned for vengeance. The first strike was devastating. Galactic fleets burned, shattered by an enemy they could not comprehend. The Zelthar warships, their pride and arrogance still fresh from their defeat on Earth, were the first to fall. Their shields flickered, their weapons fired blindly into the void, but it was useless. The enemy did not fight conventionally. It did not rely on ships, on fleets, on physical form. It was something else entirely. A hunger, a force, something that devoured reality itself. The Zelthar died screaming. The Ixari were next, their delicate crystalline ships dissolving into nothingness, as the enemy simply unmade them. No debris, no wreckage, just empty space where entire vessels had once been. The Vasun, the so-called peacekeepers of the stars, tried to flee. Their ships flickered, jumping to warp, but they never arrived at their destinations. One by one, their escape routes collapsed into blackened voids, as if the universe itself had swallowed them whole. Panic spread. The galaxy was losing, and then humanity struck back. We had been here before. We had fought this war before, but last time we had been unprepared. We had not understood the enemy. We had not known how to stop it. Now, we did. The first human warship to enter the battle was Exodus Prime, an ancient vessel, its hull reforged from metals that no living scientist could explain. It moved with impossible precision, as if space itself bent around it. It carried no conventional weapons. Instead, it wielded something far more dangerous, the Echo Cannon. A weapon built in another time, for another war, a weapon designed not to destroy the enemy, but to erase it from existence entirely. With a single pulse, Exodus Prime fired. The void itself rippled, and for the first time, the enemy recoiled. The attack did not just damage it, it remembered. It had faced this before. It had won last time, but now things were different, because now humanity remembered too. And this time, we would not lose. Across the battlefield, human warships emerged, not from hyperspace, not from jump points, but from hidden locations scattered across the galaxy, forgotten strongholds buried deep within uncharted space, Humanity had never truly fallen. We had simply waited. And now, the waiting was over. The counterattack was relentless. Every human ship was a relic of the past, rebuilt, reforged, improved. Weapons that had once been abandoned were now unleashed in full force. The echo cannons struck again, tearing through the void, unraveling the enemy piece by piece. The galaxy watched in disbelief. They had thought Earth was young. They had thought humanity was just beginning. Now they saw the truth. We were the last remnants of the first Great War. We were the ones who had fought before, who had lost, who had hidden. We were not new to the stars. We were their ancestors, and this time, we would be their salvation. The battle raged for days. The enemy, once unstoppable, now faltered. It had underestimated us. It had assumed we were as weak as the others. It had believed we had forgotten. But we had spent thousands of years preparing for this. We had never forgotten. And now, for the first time in history, the enemy feared. Because humanity did not just fight wars, we ended them. The enemy was vast. It was ancient, older than the galaxies themselves. It had erased civilizations before, consuming them, devouring their histories until not even memories remained. But it had never faced something like us. We were not the strongest, not the fastest, not even the most advanced, but we endured. And that was what the enemy feared the most. The final stage of the war began in the ruins of a dead system, one whose name had been forgotten long before the first modern races had even crawled from their homeworlds. The remains of shattered planets hung in the void like gravestones, silent, lifeless. It was here that the enemy made its last stand, and it was here that we finished what had begun eons ago. The battle was unlike anything recorded in history. The enemy did not fight as others did. It did not rely on fleets, on strategy, on logic. It was a force of destruction, a presence that twisted the very fabric of space itself. But we had learned its weaknesses. We had uncovered the truths buried deep in the ruins of our lost past. The echo cannons had wounded it. The ancient warships had held the line. But it would not be enough to simply drive the enemy back. We had to erase it, and for that, we needed the final weapon. For centuries, it had been hidden beneath the surface of Mars, buried under layers of rock and dust, waiting for the moment when humanity would need it once more. It had no name. Its creators had ensured that even the memory of it had been forgotten. But the Ark had remembered, and now, so did we. The final ship, Oblivion's Wake, carried the weapon to the battlefield. It was not a bomb, not a super weapon. It was something far more dangerous. It was a reset, a construct of impossible energy, built to rewrite reality itself, to erase the enemy from existence, not just in the present, but in the past, in the future, in every timeline it had ever touched. It was the reason humanity had vanished once before, because the last time we had tried to use it, we had failed, and the cost had been everything. As Oblivion's Wake reached the battlefield, the enemy sensed it. It remembered the weapon. It screamed, not in sound, not in words, but in something deeper, something primal. The void itself trembled as it tried to stop us. Reality twisted. Stars flickered. Entire ships vanished, erased from time before they could even fire. But we were ready. Humanity's fleets formed a wall of steel and fire. Standing between the enemy and the weapon, we took the hits. We held the line. We endured. And as Oblivion's Wake reached the heart of the battlefield, the weapon activated. Light erupted. Not just in space, not just in the present, but everywhere, everywhere the enemy had ever been, everywhere it had touched, corrupted, consumed. Time itself shuddered. And then, silence. The galaxy held its breath. For the first time in untold eons, the enemy was gone, not defeated, not banished, erased. No trace remained. The worlds it had consumed, restored, the civilizations it had devoured, remembered, and in the silence that followed, the truth became clear. Humanity had not just survived the war, we had won it. The galaxy changed after that. The Vasoon, the Zelthar, the Ixari, they no longer looked at us as children. They no longer saw Earth as a backwater world, a species barely stepping into the stars. They knew the truth now. We were not young, we were not new, we were the elders of the universe, the ones who had come before, and now we had returned. This time, we would not disappear. This time we would ensure that nothing like the enemy could ever rise again. This time, the galaxy would remember. And so humanity stepped forward, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as guardians, because we remembered what the others had forgotten, that some threats never truly die, that some wars never truly end, and that next time we would be ready because humanity always endures. And we would be watching. Forever.